All right, hey guys, it's been a ride. I watched the film, and I know so many people have already put out their reviews out there, but it's my turn, and I'm going to start with a non-spoiler review. So this is going to be a quick one. It's a non-spoiler review because the spoiler review is going to take a lot of time to break down. Let me just tell you that. So before I get started, I wanted to say thank you to the Release the Snyder Cut movement for making this happen, and for all those it said it doesn't exist. For a while, you're going to see all these people who cease to exist. And for all those who said it's the same film, well, I just feel sorry for you. Now, let's get started. First off, this film is divided into 7 chapters. This is not a spoiler because it's out everywhere and Zack has spoken about it. And if you're not following what Zack is saying, I mean, what are you doing? So, we have 7 chapters for this film. The last chapter, I'm not sure. Whether I missed a label or something, but the last chapter didn't really have a pause. It was just like a short clip, which is the nightmare sequence that was filmed. And if you watch the trailer, it's with a specific character. It's in the trailer, but I'm not gonna say it because I'm not sure if everyone watched every trailer. But there is a character in the trailer. Actually, you know what? Everyone should have watched the trailer, right? So it's the Joker. So it's a nightmare sequence with the Joker in there, and something happens. So I'm going to start off with the first chapter, which is "Don't Count on It, Batman." So overall, actually, just as a whole, first of all, I feel all the chapters had incredible pacing. The way the chapters were paced felt so amazing that if this was released as an episodic series, I think it would have made perfect sense. And as it is released, which is as a movie, it still works wonderfully. Thus, I feel that it's built so well that even if you watch it as a series or as a film, it works. And a lot of things won't work that way. Like imagine sitting through the 4.5 hours of WandaVision, which was a TV series, but just sitting through it as a film, it would have been terribly boring. But this was not. This was super exciting. Everything starts off at a nice neutral point, and it scales beautifully, and it reaches this kind of this major like cliff, and it ends at like a decent drop. It doesn't end at a high. It ends like somewhere where these characters are talking or stopping or thinking or saying something important, and then it like just tells you, so this is where we have to end. And it's coming to that point sometimes. So I felt the pacing was so beautiful throughout these chapters, which is why I loved the way it was done. And I feel that if Zack ever has the chance to finish his vision and complete the 3-story arc of the Justice League, which makes it a 5-story arc of his Snyderverse, I feel that it would just be an amazing thing to watch. So let me tell you, Man of Steel and BBS were different films. Man of Steel was very much one character focused. It really told the tale of one character, and it tells you that to fully fledge one DC character, Zack Snyder takes about 3 hours, which is amazing. And I feel that it was done really well in Man of Steel, and is by far the best superhero origin story. And there are people who complain about destruction. These people really don't read the comics. Or have no idea how a fight between gods would look like. We got to see it in the screen. Now you know. The second film, BBS, was a little bit more personal. It was about bringing, the Dark Knight into the world of the Man of Steel by showing that he's just an ordinary person out there who ends up getting caught in these events and faces off with a god. And despite Batman being a genius, able to come up with the right strategy with the lead smoke bombs, with the mech suit to delay the fight just long enough for him to see the effects of kryptonite kick in and finally have a chance to face off. And as it turns out, he was in luck because he was able to bring down Superman, but Superman was holding back because Superman, despite knowing that he has to kill this guy for his mother, didn't really want to do it because Batman was not a villain. He knew that Batman was still a good person. And while he didn't hesitate to kill, or rather, he did hesitate, but with difficulty he killed Zod because he knew if he didn't kill Zod, Zod will kill millions. But he didn't mind dying in the hands of Batman because he felt that Batman is still a good guy, and it's his life or Batman's, or rather his mother's life and his life or Batman's. And yeah, and it came to such a beautiful moment in BVS, which was the Martha scene, which I felt carried a lot of weight because in 80 years of Superman and Batman, not everyone knows that their mothers actually share the same name. And it was a genius point in the movie. A lot of people felt it was cringy, a lot of people felt it was cliche or whatever. I don't know if you have ever thought about it, whether you knew their moms had the same name, whether you knew that that was the pivotal moment between these two characters that that would bring them together and show them that we are all human because we all have mothers. And that is such a beautiful thing because what makes us human is really all about us being, these people of society, right? These people who have parents, and we believe in what our parents teach us, and we grow because of what our parents teach us. And some of us don't have parents, and that really changes a person. And most superheroes, either lose one, both, or have some kind of parental issue because they address problems in the real world, which very much often starts off in your house and starts off with your parents. And I felt that it was such a beautiful moment. BVS was done so beautifully. The ending was amazing, the fight and all that. And this Justice League is a totally different film once again. And this is a film where we get the introduction of three new characters and a half, which is Diana, which is Wonder Woman's story as well. So we get four character story over the 4 hours, and Batman and Superman story also don't stagnate. They do develop as well as characters, and it's amazing that Zack managed to do it in 4 hours. If he told me he's going to do it over 6 hours, I would have agreed to watch it anyway. I could just stop at one of the parts and continue watching it later, and I would have still been fine with it. And I really wish this film didn't end because people, whoever said it's too long or whatever, I have a feeling you just, you have the concentration of a teaspoon or whatever, because this film didn't feel like it was long because there was so much to see, and I just didn't want it to end. But unfortunately, it had to come to an end, and maybe someday uh, it will continue. So sorry, but this is the non-spoiler review, guys. Okay, this is the non-spoiler review. So the chapters which are divided into seven little parts, are actually more so, I think, like 5 parts, because some of these chapters are shorter, some are longer, and they go for an average of about 45 minutes, roughly. I think chapter 2 or chapter 3 was really long, but the rest of them are like almost the same. So how it works is that we all know Batman is like recruiting the League, and Superman is dead as of the end of BBS, and the team eventually has to find a way to bring him back to life, and that core story is the same. And then we saw Steppenwolf in the 2017 version collecting the mother boxes, uh, in order for him to form the Unity. But in this, we get the story of his master, which is Darkseid. And once again, I can't go through spoilers, but we show every character that we saw in the 2017 Justice League is completely sort of overwritten by an actual story, an actual motivation, weight, the chance of actually losing the fight. You feel the possibilities in this story are actually given some weight, and some kind of reason to work. And also you actually feel that the stakes are high. You feel that things can go wrong at any time because the enemies have their own strong motivation, and they're not going to stop at achieving it. um, and I felt all that was better fledged out and given proper story, and I really enjoyed it. And then the what do you call this? Of course, the each character, of course, has their own little story. Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman stories just kind of continue. But as for Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman, we get to see a lot of their lore. We get to see a lot of their core stories getting kicked off. But this was obviously created at a time when these characters didn't have their own films yet. And then unfortunately, Patty Jenkins and James Wan had to do their films before Zack could complete his vision. So they did it based on Joss Whedon's version. And I feel that there's no real harm to it, except when we come back to watch this film, we are reminded of Zack's true vision for these characters. Why it was Jason Momoa's Aquaman and not a Brendan Fraser Aquaman. Because the tone that was set in this film is that these people are the depiction of gods. Flash is the god of speed. Cyborg is like a digital god. Superman is like the god of strength, might. And then Batman is like the god of intelligence. And resources. Wonder Woman is like the god of the warrior princess. Kind of the god of battle, and also um, what do you call this? The god of what do you call it? It's like war. She's like a god of war in a way because she's still a spawn of Zeus, but she's also the mother figure. She's like a god of protection as well because she has a sword and a shield. This is the way I'm looking at Wonder Woman throughout this film, is that she has the sword and the shield, and she really utilizes the two of them. So she knows how to deal the damage, she knows how to fight, but she also knows how to defend, which makes her both a good tactician but also a person who serves these two purposes, which was really beautifully depicted as a character. And I felt the warrior princess Wonder Woman was what we were missing in the Patty Jenkins version. I think the first Wonder Woman was still pretty close because Zack was really closely related to the writing of it. But in the second version, I don't know what the hell happened, and I don't ever want to see that film again. And this Aquaman is truly the god of Batman says he's the protector of the oceans. This is in the first film as well, I believe. So he's like the god of the oceans. He's the protector of the seas, and he's kind of the person who has to divide the surface world from the ocean world. And I felt that was actually a rather large burden for one person, because if you think about it, 75% of the earth is the ocean. So Aquaman has more work than the rest of the league, if you think about it, technically. But of course, Superman is a bigger role because he fights, universal stuff. So it's really a beautiful scope of how each character actually carries a huge, massive weight in the world. And it's totally different from how the Avengers do, because the Avengers are like a bunch of ordinary people who get abilities, whereas in the Justice League is about these, some are ordinary people who get abilities, but they become extraordinary god level people. And they're you kind of see them get humanized, with them trying to fit into this world of regular people, because what makes them special is the fact that they can't stand to see these people get pushed around. They can't stand to see people get hurt, which is why the whole story of Man of Steel happened, because Superman couldn't keep quiet. He had to save people. If he didn't want to save people, if he just minded his own business, no one would have, he would have never become Superman. No one would have built his story up. And I felt that coming together of these gods, who are all misfits, was such a beautiful thing to see on the big screen. And it really stays true to the comics and the theme of the comics. And I felt the way Zack has depicted these characters was very, very comic accurate. And I felt these are the most comic accurate characters I've ever seen depicted on the screen. And take note that you can't compare these to the 1980s. We live in a modern era where people are starting to get more mature. All those kids who used to watch the cartoons back in the 90s and the 80s are now adults who want to see more mature content. And this film is perfectly aligned for them. As once again, as I said before, this is not a film to just sell toys, but to sell ideas. And if you can learn to appreciate this, man, it's such a beautiful thing. So the second thing I want to talk about is I'm going to give my points on this film. So unfortunately, since this is the non-spoiler review, I can't really get into too many details. So I'm just going to give you the kind of overall points for each of the different things that I want to talk about. So as you can see, there's 5 different points here, which come, I'm going to just give 2 points based on how well each of them do, and then you'll get the 10 points total to know what's the rating for this film. So first off, the cinematography and the animation of this film. I felt the cinematography was off the charts. Um, director of photography Fabian Wagner, as well as Zack Snyder, the director. They both did an amazing thing. Kudos to everyone in the filmography team as well. The way the pacing of this film and the way the shots of this film are taken, I think there is still shots that have been cut out because this film, it became a 4 hour film because I believe it was to be released in 4 different parts as a series. But if it didn't have that concept, I think it would have gone a little bit longer. So I feel that there were parts still cut out, especially like the nightmare. Sorry, not the nightmare, the history lesson. In the Age of Heroes, and then maybe even some character parts, moments, and whatever. I felt there were things still cut out, but it's fair enough. I'm glad with what we got. So the cinematography was incredible, but when it comes to the animation, I have to be honest. I'm not going to be biased just because I like this film. And when it comes to the animation, the CGI quality was off in some parts. So I felt that the most difficult person to animate in this film was Cyborg. And for obvious reasons, Cyborg character is very CGI heavy. And you can see in some parts his CGI is near flawless, but in some parts there are very clear flaws. And at first you think it's just Cyborg, but then you realize that a lot of characters, when they come to the action sequences, they're full CGI. And some parts it is quite obvious that they are CGI characters, and I felt it is just unfortunate that Zack couldn't get the full budget to kind of get the CGI done completely to its perfect form. And also I believe that the time frame that was given to him to complete the film was not sufficient. So anyway, but those are the reality of life. No one is going to get perfect chances, but I can't judge based on the time given to you. I just have to judge based on what was given to me. So the film that I saw, I felt the CGI was not truly at its finest, and for the reason of that, I'm going to have to give cinematography and animation only 1 point. The second thing is the audio and the tone of the film. I felt the overall music in the film was really nice. It fit very well into the background. It didn't overpower the characters, but I felt that some characters had just better, music as for their themes and whatever. And I felt that Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman had very iconic themes, whereas Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash's themes were just not as good, not as catchy, I would say. And I felt Flash has a pretty good theme, especially when you see him doing some Flash stuff. But as for Cyborg, maybe the, the 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 scenes of the emotional music had beautiful music for Cyborg. This he has a lot of emotional scenes. He really is the heart of this film, uh, and he has a lot of these emotional scenes where I felt the music in those scenes were beautiful. But Cyborg's theme was not so impressive for me, and you can see that when Cyborg does more action sequences. Similarly, Aquaman's theme also didn't really hit close to me. Regardless, maybe listening to them more often, or maybe in their own films, they would have stand out more. But unfortunately, we may not get to see those own films. Regardless, I was really amazed by how uh, the tone was set for every character. It didn't feel like any character outshined each other, and the overall way the film was taken really made sure that we scaled up and down really beautifully between the chapters, and the colorization really set the mood for the audio. And as you're watching it, you really feel sucked into the film, and it was so beautiful. And yeah, that's the audio and tone. So I'm gonna give the audio and tone, uh, like 1.5 to 2 points. All right, because of the fact that it was great, beautiful, emotional, and strong, but not catchy. And yeah, sometimes you want things to be a little bit catchy because, as you can see, Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman's themes were really catchy, especially Batman's riffs that is like a guitar riff. You'll hear it, it's really catchy. Wonder Woman's theme, we all know it. Superman's theme, who doesn't? So, yeah, that's that. The pacing and the story. As I've said before, the pacing is absolutely beautiful, automatic point. The story of this film, I felt, is something that um, despite having a lot of homage type ish moments in the story for the comics, this what I felt was pretty much close to um, what do you call this? The stories that we have seen in the past in a lot of other iterations. Some guy is coming to collect a bunch of things, and these heroes have to stop him because if he collects all of them, he wins. And that story I felt was pretty basic. But as I've said before, it's not about the surface of the story, but about the layers inside it. And the layers of what the story has is about these unique characters who each have their own background story coming together as a team. And I know Zach's full vision. I know what's going to come later. And let me tell you, the later stories are going to blow your mind. But this story was basically setting up for those, and I felt it was done so beautifully. There's no way anyone else could have brought in, you know, three and a half new characters into the world of Batman and Superman and done it. And I felt that this was just, it was amazing. Like, I don't think anyone in the world could have done it. It's seriously, honestly, just Zack Snyder's brilliance. And I was so impressed thinking about it. I've never seen a film done this way. And I honestly think no one will ever be able to do it for a long, long time to come. And if someone does manage it, I will respect them the way I respected Zack as is. So pacing a story, 2 points. There's no question about it. Acting and depth. Now, let me tell you, every one of these characters in the story, everyone, including the villains, including the side characters, everyone did their part, and they all felt equally important because the story gave them depth. Right, the story made sure each character had a role in the film and a role to fulfill, and you can tell you can't take any of these characters for granted. None of them is a joke, and the stakes are high because things can happen to any one of them, despite how important they all are. And every character has a role that they can fulfill in this film, but also that they will be having an important role in films to come, should there be any. So I felt that paying homage to some characters in the comics as well, but kind of giving the respect that these characters deserved was very, very, very well done by Zack Snyder's script, and the acting that the characters, or rather the actors, pulled off to fulfill their characters, I felt was done really, really well. It really felt like the Justice League. I mean, sure, it may not be the bright colored stuff that we saw in the 90s when we were kids back in school or whatever because they wanted to sell toys to us. But man, I like this. This is my Justice League. And I felt that this is such a beautiful work of art. And every character did their part to make sure that they fit into the scope of this world and the character. And yeah, pretty, pretty impressive. Now, as for the depth, of course, thanks to the story, the actors were given depth and the characters were given depth. But I felt that there's so much more to build, and the story just didn't have the time to do it. So I have to judge it based on this film alone, and I felt that I can give it a full point for depth. There's few ways it could have gone wrong, but because of just how much we got in this film, I mean, there's little ways you can go wrong with it. The way I saw it, I was like, I was trying to nitpick, but I couldn't. It's not like the Avengers where you can really nitpick about plot holes and why this character does things differently in different ways. And to give you a simple example, is Hulk. Why suddenly Hulk, didn't want to show up when Bruce Banner needed him was not explained. It needed to be explained by the Russo brothers later on. But this film doesn't need that. It doesn't need the director sitting down explaining to you why a character does something because you get to see it in the screen. You know why the character does it. Similarly, Thor in Thor Ragnarok goes through this whole path where they made him look like an absolute clown. He's not the god that he is in the comics. He's not comic accurate and whatever. And eventually, despite the funny part and stupid part they put him through, they try to make him look like a really built up character. In the end, they give him all these powers, and then despite all the powers, he just gets beaten by Thanos. And after that, he comes back with a weapon to beat Thanos, so he gets thrown down again. And despite facing off against Thanos again, he becomes this fat, beard-bellied guy. So yeah, that's really an undoing of a character, and I felt that that was not done here. Each character was given respect, and it's going to take something really, really powerful to bring them down because of the way they're built. And you do get to see some people go through hardships. I won't spoil it, so you get to watch it. So yeah, full points for acting and depth. Ideas and rewatchability. Now, rewatchability is a straight up one for me, and I can't tell you why until I go through the spoiler review. As for the ideas, I'm going to give the ideas in the film a solid point, okay? Because everything about this was quite impressive. However, I'm going to have to deduct. I'm going to sadly have to deduct, all right, half a point. And the reason I have to deduct that point is because, or rather deduct, yeah, half a point or so. I have to deduct that point because I felt that the some of the basic storyline is pretty predictable. You know, like, you know what's going to happen. It's predictable. You know the heroes are just going to stop him and whatever. But the way it was done was so impressive that you have to give them points for that. And I can't tell you fully why, because I need a spoiler review for that. So let me tell you my overall points for the film, right? Once again, just to cover up, because I think I may have been a little bit not so accurate. So the only thing that loses points out of these five, for me, the animation loses. I think about half point because of the poor CGI in some scenes, but because it's a 4 hour long film, you get a lot of good CGI scenes as well. So there's about half point here, half point in the ideas. So you lose 1 point. The audio loses about half a point for me. And as for the what do you call this? The pacing and the story, I feel, it's just kind of unfortunate that we didn't have to do it. But if this film came out by itself and didn't watch the Joss this leak version, I think I would have given it just a little bit more because it would have felt more original. But I guess I have to judge it as a film by itself. I can't judge it based on what I've seen. So what I'm gonna do here is give you what I feel is appropriate for this film, which is a 9 out of 10. Okay, so I'm deducting half a point for the ideas and half a point for animation. Half a point for animation, half a point for audio. So it's going to get about an 8.5 actually. But I'm going to give back the other half point for ideas because I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the bigger picture here, which is the fact that Zack was limited to the idea that he had to do this film to build up these many characters, and no one has done that. So to bring these many characters, that idea alone deserves a half point. And I would give this, like, for me personally, it's a 10 out of 10 because this is the only film in the world that came to reality because of fandom believed in it. But judging it solely as a film, it is a 9 out of 10 film. It has a lot of. It does have its jokes. It does have its moments. The jokes land perfectly. The moments are so beautiful. It's just unfortunately justice ruined it for me a little bit. So I feel because of that, I want to give this less points. But now that I think about it, I can't blame this film for what was done to it. This film was criminally abused into a monstrosity that came out earlier that we unfortunately had to watch. So I'm trying my best to fight myself right now to tell you that this is a better film, a way better film than most films out there. And if I could brainwash myself to forget about the 2017 version, I think this is the right score for it. And I'm still fighting myself. It's really really difficult, but I'm going to be honest. This is it. Okay? It's losing points for the animation in some parts, but the rest of the animation is pretty good. And it's going to lose points because the audio was not that impressive. But the rest of it is pretty good. And as for the rest of the stuff down there, I think it's just a matter of I want to deduct points because of 2017. But now that I think about it, if I had watched this the first time, this would be the way I should rate it. And I'm gonna watch this again and again, and I'll let you know if I change my rating. But as I said before, I'm quite proud with the way I give my ratings, and I feel if I ever change my rating, it's usually within a point. So could be an 8 out of 10, it could be a 10 out of 10. So this is what I'm going to give you, a 9 out of 10 on average. And for the fandom, for the fandom, this is what I'm going to give the fandom. All right? This is what I'm going to give the fandom. This would not this film should never have happened. All right? This film should never have happened if a director, such a visionary director, was not criminally abused to the point his work of art was destroyed and he had to rebuild the entire thing. That's why this should have never have happened. This film should have come out by itself. Zack should have been allowed to make it by himself without those pesky medley, you know, I don't want to say it. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'll see you in the spoiler review. Adios.